And good morning, it's your friendly neighborhood Tironan, and today we are looking at the I-250. And I skipped the introductory screen. This is an aircraft that's kind of interesting. You'll notice it has kind of a jet exhaust in the back. It was using the engine to compress air and then throwing fuel into it, which gave it 10 minutes of about 510 miles an hour. Kind of a transitory one-off type of jet, was never repeated, and in fact never made it off the drawing board, or made it to the drawing board, but they experimented with a little bit, perfected the engine a little bit, but it was just simply not better than the axial flow radiators from BMW and Junkers they had access to at the end of the war. Um, but nonetheless, it was a very interesting aircraft. And it's a very quick aircraft. It actually comes out of the box faster than the P-51H, which is one quick aircraft. Alright, we're trying not to overshoot him, which is, along with his allied stablemate, the P-51, is incredibly easy to do. And I've included the air polish on this in order to make it better able to deal with the uh, 262s that you see around way too often. And I will promise you, one place this does not belong is in a dogfight. So we are just trying to speed up and get away from the aircraft pursuing us. As a dogfighter, it's a hell of a boom and zoom single engine high interceptor. And one of its few competitors out there is the U-209, which sure enough showed up. Oh, it's ugly. I thought it was the only one that could do something like that. Okay, so let's get over here to the battlefield and defend our airfield, which I see we have to do. And interestingly enough, we have a jet. SU-9 and a TL-9. And I noticed that the fellow isn't having a whole lot of luck getting away from me, which is interesting. And he flies like a bot trying to get away. Alright, that's one down. Now, folks, you just watched a jet fighter fall to a propeller aircraft. And there goes number two. All right. As you can probably tell already, this is an aircraft that is happy at altitude and not ever attempting to dogfight with it. When it comes to speed, it's not going to give up much to anybody. It's certainly not going to give it up to this 92. But if this guy has any brains at all, what he will try to do is to get me to get into a climbing dive, and he's not. And again, without even trying, you can overrun the aircraft. Now it's got the aircraft polish on it too, so that it's already pretty quick. And by the time I get the engine upgrades, it's going to be even faster. Hint, hint. You want the engine upgrades and aircraft polish on this as quickly as possible if you want to have any fun with it at all. Otherwise, you're going to suffer something very similar to what I did with the P-51H, which is until you get all the upgrades, you're going to suffer and suffer mightily. And it's probably not your idea of fun, and certainly not mine. I have a feeling, yeah, sure enough. Remember, you have brakes on these things as well as accelerators, and if you want to be a successful pilot in this, you're going to have to get good at both. Now, why that fellow decided that the smart move was to try to wiggle around in front of me or outrun me instead of outturn me, which is what he should have been doing. Now again, you've got the classic Japanese. I think it's the worst of all of them about overheating. For all this guy's rolling around, he's not particularly maneuverable. Neither are you, but I think you're more maneuverable than he is. Don't let the rolling around fool you or intimidate you. He's not as good as you are. He may be as fast as you are. That's one quick aircraft. I have not done a comparison between the two of them. Okay. This is the, I have flown this thing 4 or 5 times now. This is the most successful I've ever been with the aircraft, which tells me a lot of things. There's a whole lot of not tos. Don't get into low-level combat. Do not get into furballs. Do not get in around lots and lots of aircraft. You want to be as high as you can vertically, and you want to stay there. You might get sucked down to lower levels as soon as you get an opportunity to come back up. Your natural prey is going to be heavy fighters. You're going to have kin up there that are just like you are. The 209, the P-51H are two that come very quickly to mind. And other I-250s that can, and then your 626 and your TL-109 and an AM8, A8M, I'm sorry, J8M are things you're going to be seeing a lot of. You've got good gun power on this. Not spectacular, but good enough. You've got speed enough. You're going to want to exploit that and realize that just like every other game, when you think you got too much speed to be caught, somebody out there is going to be faster. All right. Let's talk about the upgrades and what you're going to want to get. The cannon upgrade is not that important at this point, as is the speed. So what you want to do is, as soon as you can research this, you're going to want to do that. You can get by on this. You honestly can. And if I had it to do over again, I would have simply left it alone. I would have gone straight down the engine line, then to this, and then start on the upgrades. I'm not going to repeat that mistake. Here's what you see on this. It's only good to about 20,000 feet, or 2,000 feet. Now let's take a look at the information. Yeah, effective fire 2,034. So you're actually giving up quite a bit on that. And your information here, you're good to 2,300. So you're losing 300 feet. Here, you actually gained range. Now, don't get me wrong. This hits much, much harder. But you got one of them. Okay. And if I don't miss my guess, it's going to be another looper. Well, what do you mean by that? None of the, we'll see. But most of the big rounds on the autocannons on aircraft were relatively slow velocity. And I'd be very surprised if this is any different. That's not terribly useful except when you're going after bombers. But essentially, you're back to the P-39. The Yak-7, if you know how to fly that, you'll have to fly this the same way. But here is where you're going to want. You're going to need all this speed. I would much rather, this aircraft is fairly quick now, but I would much rather see it. Let's see if I can get this to come up. I'm much more interested in this aircraft at 509, and then with the 5% on that, you're talking 533. Now, all of a sudden, unless that ME-262 has aircraft polish on it, it's in a lot of trouble. You just saw me stay with a TL-109, and it couldn't get away. SU-7 couldn't get away. Uh-oh. Not where you want to be at. But it's where you're going to want to be at with this fighter against them. So, you notice I'm not buying that yet. I will hold off. I will go get this. I will upgrade it, and then I will upgrade it again before I bother with these. And I wouldn't be surprised if I put this on again and go back to this. I like range on my aircraft far more than I like hitting power for the most part. And so that is the big selling point. This is an excellent aircraft. And when it's used correctly, and it took me 5 separate tries to get it correctly, it's a great, great aircraft. If you try to make it do anything else than what it does, which is stay high, fight the things that are up there, dive down only to finish off aircraft that are trying to dive away from you, and then get back up to altitude, it's not going to be nearly as much fun. Okay, there are lots of things down there that can eat your lunch, and lots of things up there at 7,000 feet that aren't going to have nearly as much fun trying to chase you down. Mark 14s, for instance, Spitfires Mark 14s are not going to be too particularly fast up there. The KI-94 is good to every bit of your altitude and then some, but it is not as fast. But it is much more turning, so you're going to have to treat that one a little different. But a lot of the aircraft that are up there are not as maneuverable as you are, or only as maneuverable as you are. The P-51D is one you're going to have to respect. You have heavier firepower than he does. And we'll take a look at that for just a minute for comparison purposes. He's going to outturn you, so don't get into turning contests with him. He's coming up about 8 or 9 miles an hour slower than you are. Again, if he's well, this one's actually fully upgraded. It's going to be more like he's going to come up about 10, 15 miles an hour slower than you are. And you're going to want, I'd say, a good, yeah. So you're going to want to not get in a turning contest. You're going to be a little faster. You can't get away from him. But he's very quick on a dive. Don't try to dive from him. Might try to climb away from him. But he does have better high altitude performance. You got to get 1,000 feet on you, so you'll have to work with those. But he's a competitor. He's not that much superior to you in a turn. You have much better gun power, fire superiority over him, and you've got better reach on your guns. He's only good to about 18.4 18,000 37 feet. That's just, what a mouthful. Okay, anyway, and you're coming out there at 23. All right, you have a much better reach, and you can use that. You can cripple them before you engage if you spot them, and you're going to want to. All right. If you get this thing on your tail, you're not going to shake him, and it's going to be over. So you got his, and you've got yours, but this is a fairly close match to an aircraft. You should enjoy this aircraft quite a bit as long as you respect its role and don't try to make it do something it can't. All right. Okay, folks, that will wrap it up for today. Please remember to like the video if you do like the video, and remember to subscribe. I always need new subscribers. We're a fairly new channel, and we're in desperate need of your help. I appreciate you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow.